Hey, Droobies. In case you missed last week's episode, our conversation on Whip It ran really long, and we realized during editing that we needed to split it up into two parts. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen now. And this episode is going to just jump right back into where we left off. Enjoy.
How do you do? How do you do?
And then some other notable crew. Obviously, Chris Miller and Nancy Javonen were producers on here. I just felt like I have to mention that.
Yeah.
Also, Kat Thomas did the costumes, which I love the looks in this movie.
Me too.
And they feel very real. Like you see people repeat some of their outfits, which I always love. And she also did Grey Gardens, which what a different project.
Totally.
And Going the Distance, which as I really love Drew's style in Going the Distance as well. So that's fun that she showed up in this as well. And then I think this was the last time, but Barbara Olvera was the hair department head on Whip It, and Drew and her started working together on Scream, which is so funny because Drew wore a wig in that movie.
Yeah.
But she was specifically there for Drew. And they did 14 movies together, which is incredible.
That's so cool. I can definitely remember that name because I'm sure anytime I'd watch a movie, I would look for Drew's assistant and Drew's hair and Drew's makeup.
Yeah,
so
it would be Kim
that.
Green doing makeup and Barbara doing hair, for so many movies.
Yeah.
But I guess she works mostly with Scarlett Johansson these days. So
okay.
Yeah, which is great. But I was
she's doing all right for herself.
Oh,
then,
yeah.
But
she doesn't have any sort of web presence, which is such a bummer because I bet she has so many cool pictures.
My God. Oh my God.
And then also Darren Michaels was the still photographer, and he's done 8 Drew or Flower Films movies, starting with
cool.
Charlie's Angels. Yeah. So it's just that thing again of what you said, where she rehires the same people, keeps the same crew around. It's just fun.
Something about still photography that I didn't realize for a long time, but is really a unique thing.
I love it.
Is that a still photograph is generally not a still from the film roll.
It's people misuse that a lot. They're talking about a screenshot that's not a still. A still photographer standing to the side taking photos.
Yeah. I just realized that we might have actually said film still earlier when we were talking about the things that Drew had on her wall.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But those are it's not a screen capture though, because that seems like something different. Either way, a still photographer will sometimes take a picture that it's a slightly different angle of a scene happening.
Yeah.
So they'll either do that or they'll do scenes where it clearly has the director in it and has the crew. So still photographs, I feel yes, they're still used, I think, in articles, but it used to be a big thing to have a press kit that would have obviously we can go on and on about
it's just not a thing anymore. It kills me.
Yeah, there are some really amazing ones for Firestarter, aren't there?
Firestarter.
So check our website. I feel like Firestarter is a really good example where you can see some of the coolest type of things a still photographer would do.
Yeah, we have a whole on the Drewsium. If you go to our 8x10 TV and film photos, there's all kinds of cool stills in there.
So, Darren Michaels is one of these people, and they're on the set probably all the time, and they just capture either a scene being filmed as the scene would look from the camera's view or similar to, or they're shooting behind the scenes shots. Yeah. So it's a really cool and I think important role.
Yeah, especially when it comes to promotional material.
Yeah.
Okay, and then some notable thank yous that I think we should mention, because it's why did she pick these particular people? Well, obvious. I think this is obvious. She does thank Jade, which is kind of it's kind of cool. It's whatever her feelings were about her, she felt okay, I got to give you some props for this.
Yeah. And I love with that specific part that it said Jade Barrymore and the Barrymores.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was really sweet. And I at first I was like, oh, her family as in like her ancestors. But I also like, is she also talking about like, I don't know, the living Barrymores?
Maybe.
I don't know. But my immediate thought was her family, that she was like, I'm here as this directing a film now because of you.
Totally.
Really cool. Sweet.
And she thanks Julian and Juliet Casablancas. So Julian is the lead singer of the Strokes and Juliet is his wife. So I'm like, why them? It's interesting, right?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting
friends
too.
With them, but
she might have gotten like, you know, easier access to some of the music because of them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a cool
I don't know. Or just like you said, friendships.
Yeah.
Justin Long is also thanked here, which
thanks for dropping out of the movie.
but also like, you know, it kind of shows that there like wasn't maybe bad blood.
Yeah,
or,
it's
like
sweet.
It's sweet, and probably he was there for when she was preparing for the movie, and she just felt, right. You know, I think it's cute that he's there.
And let's put it this way: by the time the movie came out, they were totally back together, even though they weren't admitting it. So
that's a good point. It's a good point. So they went through this whole thing. Yeah,
and then. Interestingly, Steve Martin, but he's credited, you said, as Stephen Martin?
That's what I saw, so I wasn't quite sure it was the Steve Martin.
But they do. So Bliss and Oliver, when they're on a date, they are watching The Jerk, which is his movie. So
they're at the Alamo Drafthouse in Austin watching The Jerk.
Yeah, and I know Drew has talked about loving that movie, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It does make sense. I just thought I have to like go back and see if I'm right that it said Stephen Martin. I just remember seeing it and I didn't note it because I was like, maybe it's someone else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Either way, it makes sense for them to think someone he probably was involved in them allowing them to use The Jerk.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
And then Steven Spielberg is thanked. Not a huge surprise. You know, continued to be a huge part of Drew's life. Drew is quoted as saying, everything I've learned about filmmaking, I owe to him. So and cool. She also said that she showed Steven a rough cut and got notes from him. And he was super proud.
Yeah.
So
that's so sweet.
It's really cute.
And I remember he came to the LA premiere, which is like sweet.
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten that, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that she's like maintained some relationship with him.
I know.
And there was that really cute thing on her birthday on her show where he like came on and didn't he show some like crazy pictures of her dressed like a nun?
Yeah, why does Riding Cars with Boys keep coming up? So this is me getting mad at lies when I'm like, this is not the truth. They said that she sent those pictures to him after she posed in Playboy. But those pictures are 1000% on the set of Riding Cars with Boys. So that would be like,
who said that?
5 years later. I think they both were talking about it on the show. Like, oh yeah, I sent those out. I'm like, no, maybe that's not true.
Maybe they actually kind of were like, sorry about the nude pictures, like
5 years later.
I mean, 5 years is not that much relatively.
That's
Who
true.
knows?
That's true.
But it's really funny. It's really funny because I remember when I saw them, I didn't immediately clock it as Riding Cars with Boys, and that's probably because what they were saying.
Yeah.
Either way,
it doesn't necessarily look like it's from that, but if you look at the like setting of where it was, like it's where her house is in the movie, like you can see the background stuff. Who knows? I think they were just something weird about, because that character is like from a Catholic family, so I think it had more to do with the movie than anything else.
There was probably like a montage or something.
Yeah.
Had. All right, so now we wanted to talk a bit about the soundtrack. According to our research, the movie has 75 songs, which seems like a lot, but I have no way of gauging like how that compares to other films. But
I don't know how it compares to other films, but I know it's more.
Okay.
Like I found a really cool newspaper article that talked about it, and it was like 75 songs. Like that's so much. Yeah.
It's a lot. And also just imagine the negotiations to get all the songs.
Oh yeah. Well, if you go on Spotify, like half the songs on the soundtrack don't work. They're like out. Luckily we have tangible copies of these things because I love the soundtrack. I used to listen to it a lot
too. And I guess that just means that those musicians are not on Spotify.
I don't know. So one of them, and it's one of the best ones, we'll talk about it, but you can't get it on the Whip It soundtrack on Spotify. But if you go to the artist by itself, you can. So I don't know. It's
Okay.
weird, like licensing stuff.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's strange though.
Okay, that's really weird.
Yeah, Drew worked really hard on the soundtrack, as we already discussed. I know that was like very important to her. We even found out that when they were like working on the film and the producers were kind of like trying to figure out the music, they started with doing burned CDs, like mixtapes, and there was so much that they had to then like upgrade to entire iPods full of music, which is really cool.
Something about burned CDs feels so like 2008, you know, like
that was like the end of it, I think.
But so do iPods, I guess.
I know, that's so weird.
Because what would they do now? Make a Spotify playlist?
I guess so. I mean, yeah, it would just all be streaming. I feel like Drew would probably still try to find some way to make a mixtape.
Yeah.
But yeah, I even like, there's a lot of mentions that they played a ton of music on set all the time, like how we talked about the Van Halen song for Juliette Lewis. But some of the other songs like that are in the movie, they actually even played on the set when they filmed the scenes, which I thought was really cool.
So cool.
I'm sure that's very abnormal. But
that's super cool. But one thing I can't help but think of is the movie Baby Driver. Have you seen that movie?
No.
So in the film, a lot of the music is like timed with scenes, and they were chosen to go with scenes. So, I mean, that's a like specific kind of example where Edgar Wright like chose the song as he was like kind of creating the film.
That's cool.
And I'm sure that's kind of, even though it's not like timed with it, you should watch Baby Driver. It's really great.
Is Ryan Gosling in it?
I don't think so. You're thinking of Drive.
Oh, yep. Sure.
I can't remember the name of the actor, but the young actor who plays Baby in the movie is really, really great. It's got John Hamm in it randomly, and like Jamie Foxx.
A bunch of random people. Okay.
Yeah, but
anyway,
it's fantastic. The one other note that I wanted to point out is that there are two songs by bands that Fabrizio Moretti, Drew's ex, are in, including The Strokes and Little Joy, which is cute. And I hope that like there was some kind of communication between them when she was negotiating it. Who knows?
I think so. She always speaks of him really fondly. Like, she definitely has good things to say about him still. So that's cute. So sweet. I just like that little touch.
and like, I feel like it says something about Drew, like wanting to support people that she's, I don't know, like, had affection for in the past.
Definitely.
So I love it.
Well, that just made me think there's a whole song in Never Been Kissed, which is kind of, she was Courtney too at that time, but still, like, that's kind of cute.
It's super cute.
So what are your fave, like, needle drops? What are your fave songs in the movie? If there's a lot, I know, but.
So a couple come to mind. We mentioned one earlier. I didn't say specifically what scene, I don't think, but No Surprises by Radiohead is played when Oliver and Bliss are saying goodbye before he goes on tour. And that's just one of my favorite songs. And I happen to tell Oliver.
I know, it's so funny. It's such a good, something about the tempo of it and the way she's just all like starry-eyed. It like totally works.
It works really well. I've always loved the intro to that song. And I think when it like happens in it, it's like, this is exactly the mood. I think it works really great. And then the other one I noted, and I had to look up what the song was, in the scene with the pool, it's called Your Arms Around Me by Jens Lekman. I also really love that song.
That's like probably my favorite in terms of like, it's so beautiful, but also it just like fits the whole vibe of that scene so well. I remember when Milla was a baby, like playing that song and kind of dancing around. I know. Those are great choices.
Yeah. What about you?
Those are definitely two of my that I would have picked. And then I also love the Stroke song that's in there, The Heartbeat in Its Cage, because it starts like right when the final derby match is going, and it just like really pulls the energy up for that scene. I think it works perfectly.
Nice.
And then I also love the very last shot in the film when Bliss is on top of the diner roof, and that song, it's called Breeze by Apollo Sunshine. It's just like, it does kind of have a breezy sound to it.
Yep, totally.
But we could go on and on. There's so many good ones.
And I think there's something like using the phrase needle drop, like it's something I've heard, but I think in these instances, like it feels like really like, all right, here's the mood.
Yeah.
And not in a way that feels forced, like it feels just right.
Natural. Like you don't, it doesn't take you out of it. Like we mentioned before, it just like totally works.
Yep. Yep.
Good job, Drew.
Super good job. Okay, so now moving on. Whip It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival and then had an LA premiere, I believe, before it was released in October, correct?
Yeah, and shout out to Drew's yellow and black McQueen gown she wore to the Toronto International Film Festival with her black tips in her hair, and she had like turquoise nails and really high platform heels. That dress
So
is
cute.
so cool. That's like one of the coolest dresses she's ever worn.
So cool. We're gonna have to put a picture in.
I guess I'll have to do that.
And then Ashley went on opening night, and I think you mentioned on air earlier that you were super pregnant.
Yes, but so I'm sure you went opening night too.
I can't remember. I
sure
must
you
have.
did. I'm sure you did. But I got a shirt like at the movie theater, which I don't, unless I was going to like an early screening or something, but I don't remember. But I thought that was cool.
Feel like we got posters, but from somebody else, or maybe you got a poster and sent me one.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I think we have like 11 by 17 posters. So regarding the like financial success of the film, unfortunately, it didn't do very well. It still made more than it took to make it. So, you know, it's not like a failure in that way, but Drew was not really happy with the way that the film was marketed, and ultimately it didn't end up making a ton in the box office. But you know what? Success doesn't have to be judged that way. I think this is successful.
It got very good reviews, and I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about it in years more recently, like, oh, I've like discovered that movie. I think maybe it had like a late finding, you know, like a lot of movies
Cult classic.
do.
Yeah.
She did say that she kind of wished the marketing had tried to appeal a little bit more to males, because like she thought it should have, but it did make a lot of like cool promotional items. I think we already talked about that, but they did some stuff. Like, it's not like they just put it out and it was like, what?
I don't remember if we did talk about it. What were you thinking about specifically?
Like the little playing cards and the pins, and there's like cups, and
I don't think we did talk about this on air.
Not playing cards, like the players cards.
Like trading cards.
Trading cards, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some neat stuff. I don't even remember, like, I think I got mine after the fact, so I don't know where they would have been given away.
I had a friend who was at Comic-Con before the movie came out, and she grabbed me, shout out to Melly. Hi, Melly. She grabbed me like a wristband and a sweatband that they were handing out. So
I forgot that you had that. Some really cute stuff.
Yeah.
And as far as marketing to men, I mean, I feel like that kind of stuff, like, it's tough because obviously it's about like female empowerment a bit, and about like finding your tribe as someone who has struggled. Like, anybody's looking for their tribe,
right?
And I mean, you know, we were talking about like Elliot Page, and you know, kind of what that whole thing is like there's this super like unfortunately new acceptance of like what it means that gender is what is gender.
Yeah, I know so much has changed even just since the movie came out.
Totally. Well, so much has changed.
Yeah.
So and imagining like marketing to non-binary folks, you know, so like what does that look like now? And I think that's going to be a struggle.
See this movie having like a real like queer following too.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of get the vibe that Eve, and then I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays the character of Eva Destruction with the white platinum hair. You kind of get the vibe that they're like a thing, but it's never like blatant. I think now it would be more blatant.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's better that it's not blatant.
We're going to also introduce a new segment. If you ever wondered what the Gen Z thinks about Drew stuff, we've got a little preteen, almost teenager by the name of Milla, and she's going to pop on and tell us what she thinks about the movie. Okay, so it's time for the Minute with Milla.
Woo!
All right, so this is my daughter Milla. She's almost 13. And this was her second time watching Whip It. And overall, what would you say about the movie?
It was good. It's very old-fashioned.
Is it?
Clothing.
Well, you know what? I remember when it came out, a lot of people couldn't tell when it was supposed to be set. So it does sort of have that like look that it's a little bit older than it is intentionally. Okay, what else?
You know the part where it was like, you probably already said this, but like the part where her friend pushes her into that guy she likes.
Yeah,
my friends would totally do that to me. They have done that to me.
So that felt really realistic to you,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a favorite character?
The girl, the roller skating girl on the like widow team with the blonde hair.
Oh, we were just talking about her.
Yeah.
You like her vibe?
Yeah.
She is pretty cool. Okay, any characters you don't care for?
No, not really.
Oh, that's good.
The neighbor dude, he's kind of weird. I don't get why he's there.
The neighbor dude.
The other dad?
Yeah, the like other dad type of guy. I don't get why
I
he's
think-
here.
I think
Barely in it.
I
You're
know,
so
if I
funny.
had
know,
to
it's
guess,
just like-
I think it was so that they had a way for Bliss's dad to have a reason to like be proud of his daughter in a similar way. So
Because remember, the neighbor dad is all proud of his football son.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I think it was a minor character setting up this thing for Bliss's dad to be proud.
Yeah.
So
What about favorite looks? Like which
Uh,
outfits would you want to wear, if any? No?
No, not really.
Okay, if you were on one of the teams, which one would you be on?
The widows.
Oh, you like the Black Widows. Okay. All right. So overall, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, enthusiastically.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd show this movie to your friends?
No.
Oh,
why not?
It's just really old and I don't know, it just doesn't seem like something we would watch.
yeah. I mean, it's from the year you were born. Ancient. All right. Well, thanks for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. Would you like to come back on a future episode?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
That's the
Milla.
minute with Milla.
Woohoo!
Okay, so we're not going to go through beat by beat of the movie. This episode is already running really long. We've had so much to talk about.
Thanks for sticking with us.
But when we both did our rewatches in the last few days, we took notes about particular things that we wanted to make sure we mentioned. So we're just going to kind of go through that real quick in chronological order of the movie. Yeah.
Yep. And what was fun is to see where we had crossover and where we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was pretty fun to do this and then even like kind of go into our things and we'll be able to comment on each other's comments.
Yeah, perfect. So the very first note I had was just that the credits font, I really like it. And I kind of wonder if Brent was responsible for that since he does have some sort of graphic credit on the movie. And it kind of has that all caps cool look. I mean, it doesn't look like the Breathe tattoo, but it's like I could see it being by the same artist, if that makes sense.
Are you talking about the font that like the title of the movie is in?
Yeah,
like,
and
the
like
one that's
all of the credits are like that kind of big capital letter bold, but like kind of rough looking.
Well.
Yeah.
I think it works well. And something I didn't take note of, but I didn't quite remember how the movie started.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I mean, like it was something where I was like, oh, like this is so cool to have it be like framed around this like pageant thing. Like I don't know why I was surprised. I just didn't remember that, but it was really great and good job, Drew.
Yeah, it definitely introduces you right away to what's going on.
Yep.
And you know that she's an indie rock loving misfit with that blue hair.
Oh, and you know what? This is not like I mean, it's sort of a criticism, but like you can kind of tell that the blue is like clipped in.
Yeah, I know. Totally. I had the same thought.
I mean, it works. I think it's funny. And I don't understand like what they were thinking. Like, was that an accident or was it not? Like, that's the other thing is like she and Pash are doing that, like putting the blue in her hair and it's like, it says temporary.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't
I guess
understand.
if you think about it too hard, it's like,
But it's cute. I like the way they start it, and I like how there's this like moment where like right after that where the girl who's kind of teasing her, who's a like other pageant girl, is like, what are you, alternative now?
Yeah.
That word alternative, like I vividly remember kind of that coming into my world in like middle school and like trying to wrap around my head around what it meant.
Well,
like,
to me, it's just like getting into music because also middle school when I really got into music. This is such a weird little sidebar, but my good friend's older sister, she was like cool teen who was never home, like never, ever, ever. But she was really into alternative music in like 93, 94.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started for me. But I totally remember she had the Mad Love soundtrack. And it's like before I was into Drew in any way, but I remember being in the room and looking at that soundtrack. Isn't that weird?
Cool. Do you remember listening to it or just like looking at it?
We might have been too scared to put her CDs on.
I love that though, because that is like encapsulates that, like, I mean, it's obviously like grunge alternative, but like, yeah, the response by Bliss in the film, like, alternative to what? Like, was kind of my first reaction in middle school. Like, I'm still learning words, you know? I don't know. It's just like, it's just funny. But yeah.
I do. Okay, so moving on. I do love the relationship that the parents have with each other. Like, it's really cute. You can tell they genuinely have like affection. They like flirt with each other in cute little ways. Like when she like grabs the dad's butt at one point, and I was just like, this feels so real. Yeah. So like lovely.
And I think there's something like I wrote in my note, like the relationship reveals itself, because there's something where you're like, they're so different. Like, why not why are they together, but like where is the crossover? That's right.
But yeah, they definitely have like some kind of partnership where like even when they have the big fight with Bliss and like as she goes out of the room and he like comes over and you think the mom's gonna be like, get away from me, but she just like lets him like console her. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's really sweet,
subtly done,
and beautifully done.
Yeah. And for some reason I love the detail that her mom is like a mail carrier.
Me too.
I don't know why. It's just like you kind of, I don't want to make this sound rude, but like you kind of get like maybe she had bigger aspirations for herself because she's like pushing Bliss so hard to like elevate and like you know, maybe she's like, this isn't really where I wanted to be in life.
The job feels like blue collar, right? And then she has this kind of like prim and proper way when it comes to the pageant stuff.
Also,
and like the fact that she was a former winner and stuff. What?
I'm just laughing. Remember I told you I discovered that Harmar Superstar is a legitimate postal worker now?
That's right. So you know what? I think that those are actually pretty good paying jobs. Like,
I know, but it's
federal jobs like that. Like, yes, it's blue collar, but there's something about like the benefits you can get as like a federal employee.
No, I get it. I just don't expect really the guy random. Who strips to his underwear on stage. Maybe he was inspired by this movie.
You know what? That's canon now.
And then another relationship, you can totally tell that Elliot and Aaliyah are like, they have such good chemistry. Like you can tell that they became true friends.
Yeah. Like, another needle drop actually that I really liked is when they played Jolene. Yes. And then they start singing. Oh, I love that part.
Yeah.
Bodine.
And it really feels like they're making it up on the spot.
Yeah,
like
it's really cute. And their dancing is like it feels so natural. Yeah. Like I'm trying to imagine almost like what Drew's direction might have been, or if
maybe
it was just
she
like,
did kind of go for it.
I'm gonna play some music and you just dance.
Yeah,
like it was so cute.
There's so many moments between the two of them where I was just like, oh yeah, you can tell they really are great friends.
Yeah, really totally.
Cute. Let's talk about Drew's look because we talked about her performance, but so much to mention about her look. Yeah, so just like as a trivia, I don't know how many of you guys noticed this, but Drew uses the number 22 in a lot of movies. That's her lucky number, as I think most people know. It's like common knowledge, right? And she's not 22 in this movie. Smashley is number 2 instead because Bliss is 22 because that's the fake age that she says she is when she is first meeting Maggie Mayhem.
Yep.
So normally she would have been the 22, I think.
Yeah. And when I was watching the film, I made the note. I'm like, wait, why is she not 22?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because
so
you just expect it. I'm pretty sure in, the first roller derby scene she ever did, which is in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. It's that brief little scene. I'm pretty sure she's 22 in that one.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm like almost positive. Now I'm going to have to go look and put the picture up.
Well, clarification will happen somehow. Research will have to be done.
And then she's got the rainbow hair, the rainbow socks, which she wears socks just like that in Best Men under the wedding dress, which is so
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
And I just was rereading Movie Line from 1995, and he calls that she's wearing the interviewer says that she's wearing Rasta colored knee socks, which I'm like, probably the same thing.
Yeah, not Rasta.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but
I think it's just like, that's a very Drew, especially like 90s Drew kind of thing. I love that touch.
You had noted the tongue piercing, and in my notes, I was like, is it real? Because I couldn't remember.
Oh, you don't remember?
For some reason, I was blanking on the fact that she had it, and you noted it until 2009.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing, but I think it works so well with the character. Did she talk about like the decision?
You know what? I'm certain she did, because she went on a lot of talk shows in 2009, and I remember her showing it a lot. So I think it was just kind of one more thing to sort of like be in that sort of zone of what the roller derby vibe was. Like that felt like another way to sort of get herself in that mode.
Yep. And I think it works well.
Yeah.
Like every time she laughs, like her like big wide laugh, you see her tongue piercing. Yeah.
And then we also get to see her tattoos, which for some reason is always a thrill when you can see her tattoos in movies, right?
It feels really special. And I feel like this might be like, would this have been like the last one we would have seen them in? I don't know. Like,
gosh, maybe in Going the Distance, I could see that showing up. But
maybe
there's something, I think that you had this note that it reminded you of the Lollapalooza pictures.
Yeah.
I think it's because like a couple times when we see them, she's got like almost like a little bra and low pants. It is sort of that same view.
Yep. It's that vibe. Yeah. And those pictures, like she's viewed from behind, like there's some of her walking away. So again, we'll have to like include
put up like a little comparison shot.
Yep. So I'm just gonna like talk about the couple of times you mentioned when she's like showing her bruises. That's when they kind of show her from behind.
Yeah.
But also when she's like tackling her fiance, you get a good like view of her tattoos.
It's crazy she didn't have any of her arm tattoos at this time. Isn't that weird? Now she has
for a split second I was like, what arm tattoos?
She has 4 on her arms now.
That's true.
Jeez.
Do we have them all on our website?
We used to.
Guys, we'll get that back up eventually.
And then the last thing I wanted to point out is there's one scene where she comes into practice late, she's always late, and she's wearing a Whole Foods apron, so you kind of learn that she works at Whole Foods. And I guess the original Whole Foods was in Austin, so Drew wanted to put that in there because she thought that was a cool touch.
I love it. And I actually realized like we don't know any of the characters' real names other than Bliss, right?
So I didn't notice this ever until I read it on IMDb, and you have to be listening in the background, but there is one scene where Jimmy Fallon is introducing them, and it's not focused on that, it's focused on the team talking, but in the background he says their real names as well. I can't even remember what they are. They're all really boring.
when you were talking about Whole Foods, I was wondering if you can like see her name on her name tag.
Oh, I don't think there is a name tag.
I feel like there might be dangling.
Okay, we'll have to
anyway,
look.
That's a little bit of research we could maybe do. The one other note I made about the look was I love how like multiple times she's got some kind of like bandage or something like showing that she got hurt, and so she's got like the neck brace.
The neck brace is so funny.
Wait, I feel like it reminds me of something specific. Is there like a neck brace thing? Oh, it's the Flower Films Christmas card.
Yeah. We're like, why is she wearing a neck brace?
Yeah, so I just realized that that's what it reminds me of, and I feel like that was a joke. Like I don't know if it was, but like, can't you see her?
Okay, now we have to do a comparison picture of that.
Can't you see her being like, this will be funny?
Yeah,
like,
she still works with all those people. That's great.
Yep, and she like, there's a point when she comes, like she has a bloody nose, and sometimes she just like looks beautiful with a bloody nose.
Milla was like, is it over yet? She doesn't look blood.
And when she gets the bloody nose, like I just realized she says, "God damn it, Diane!"
Yeah, I love that.
And I don't remember who she's talking to, but clearly we're getting like somebody's name.
Real name. Yeah, you're right.
But and then she comes in with the nose bandage later, and when I saw that scene, I was like, how does she look like so cute with those? Like,
she's like very pretty in this movie. Not that she's not always, but like
I'm sure like she was
something
just
about her
getting
look
like
is just gorgeous.
she was probably like feeling really great. She was
Yeah.
probably like, you know, she was like getting exercise, like all kinds of things that like make you look and feel great.
Yeah.
And she's like working on directing her own film. I feel like she would just seems like happy.
And she wears red lipstick a lot, which like we don't really ever see anymore with her, but such a good look.
Yep. Yeah. So, moving on from the look, even though we could probably talk about that forever.
I know, right?
I mean, yeah, like so much of it has this like 1995 carefree, like silly vibe, and it's so fun. There's a point when they're putting like makeup is on Bliss.
Yeah, right before
and then
her
they're like,
first match.
Everyone looks good with a little eyeliner, and then they're like, and lash blast. And
right.
at the time, Drew was a CoverGirl spokesperson.
And Lash Blast was like the first product. She kind of pushed or promoted for them, but
and I feel like it like gets quiet, and then it's like, and Lash Blast.
It's pretty awkward.
It's a little bit awkward, but like it's kind of, I don't know, something about it feels like Drew is like, oh, this is so cool. I have an opportunity to like talk about makeup.
It's
like
definitely a fun Easter egg for those of us that know.
There would probably be some kind of like flower beauty.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
If it was now, or they would just like have the product sitting there and like show them or something.
I bet
and
you're right.
This is like, it's part of the business.
Yeah.
But something about it, like it takes me out a little bit because I knew. I made a note, like the ADR even seems a little too clean. Like, I don't know.
Well, it can't be a perfect movie. We've had
We both made some notes about shots we like, so so if you want to like list a couple that you posted, or that you made comments
we can
about.
jump around and do that. All the derby matches, I just love how they're shot. Like, I mean, even starting with like when they're having their tryouts and Bliss is like zooming past, and you can tell she's like going so fast. I love that, but it really like there's a way that it's done, which is interesting because like Drew said, she's not like a sports person, but like you really get that vibe of like you're there in the crowd and you're excited. Like they're just done really well. And maybe that's the cinematographer, but I just love all the derby match shots. They're just awesome.
Yep, totally. I'm just gonna kind of jump to one of mine. One of the shots that I love and the vibe of it is when the roller derby girls come into the thrift store.
Yes.
And we talked about this briefly. I don't actually know what song it is right at the top of my head, but I feel like the way that Bliss feels when she sees them is like, you can feel it. Like they're making the girls look like really cool,
really aspirational. It's like slow-mo and they're like spinning and going backwards, and I love that part.
And they're like coming between the clothing racks in this cool shop. Like, I don't know, I just love that. And I forgot, like I had this moment where I was like, that's such a cool shot. Like, and it captures the feeling of it.
You instantly know why Bliss is like, what? I want to be part of this.
Yep.
Another one of my favorite, and this is such a quick moment, but I've noticed it every time. So it's right before the pool scene, and Oliver and Bliss. Oliver's inside 7-Eleven, and she's just sitting in the car looking at him through the window. And the look is so true. Like every time I'm like, yep, I know exactly that feeling where you're looking at the guy that you're just like totally obsessed with, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm so in love right now. And it's like literally 2 seconds, and it just nailed it.
It captures it well, because I feel like it's that like pure early like thing where like it's, I shouldn't say pure, but like
first love,
a naive, like the naive time when you like first meet somebody. And maybe it is almost not just about like you said, first love, but it's also like, even if it's early on in a relationship and you've had other relationships, like you have those moments where you look at somebody from across the room and it's like, like if it was a cartoon, she'd be like, you know, she'd have hearts in her eyes, and I don't know. So I agree, it's a really good shot.
Any other ones that you want to point out?
So just another one that I thought was, a couple more that I have listed here, but one of the ones that I love for some reason and always makes me laugh is when Bliss and Pash are pretending they're going to go to a football game.
Oh yeah.
And they're like wearing the jerseys and like holding these flags.
Yeah.
And like,
yay, team spirit.
yeah, and they keep like, they wave them, and then when they're like questioned, they like stop for a second, and then they're like, we love football. You know, it's like
they're waving them again.
So yeah, and like they have like the sound of the flags, just kind of like like I don't know, something about it like every time makes me laugh, and every time it comes up, I'm like, yeah, this is, again, it's like a small scene, but I think it like captures it very well. The like lying, but like trying to come off as
so
like,
hard.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Just talking about other scenes real quick. Well, like the food fight, it's like so classic, and I feel like Drew had to put that in there. Like, I do want to just like give myself a little props that I have the shirt that she wears in that scene, the orange shirt with the like white ringer. So Premier Props, which was like an eBay company that sold genuine props and costumes from movies for a while. I don't know if they still exist, but they sold a lot from this movie. In fact, when I watched the movie, everything that had been listed, I like noticed. It was just kind of funny. But that was the only one I was successful in winning. But it's pretty cool to have it. Definitely.
That's a pretty special scene. And
yeah.
like
I really wanted
outfit.
There's like I don't even know what the design is. I feel like there's like rainbows and pianos and stuff on her shirt, but it actually says Smashley Simpson on the back. I really wanted that one, but I never, it's still out there. Somebody has it somewhere. If you want to send it my way,
it'll eventually end up in the museum, as will everything.
It's meant to be.
It will. One other scene that I love, we've got a couple other scenes we can mention, but this is just one that I love, is the pool scene. So I mentioned loving the song, but I also just love like the lighting, and
the lighting's gorgeous.
It's beautiful, like not just when they're underwater, but when they're above water. Mm-hmm. Like they go into that room, like they climb in through, like I don't even understand how where they're going or whatever, but like they climb in
school or something. Maybe.
The song like starts, and I had this realization when I was watching the film, and she like admits to her mother that she gave him everything. And there's
we'll talk about that. We got some interesting info on that one.
there's nothing. So I don't know. There's this kind of like symbolic thing. I'm like, is that the symbolism for them making love? Is this underwater scene? And I just thought of this right now. But in Donnie Darko, when Donnie and Gretchen come down the stairs, you're supposed to understand that was like post-coital. I think in the commentary they say something like, like they just
that's
like
made
love, or like something regarding Donnie Darko. But it's just like these kinds of things where it's like you're not showing the actual act, and it's almost like more powerful.
But it's inferred. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, like so the end of that scene, they're out of the pool, and she like rests her head on his shoulder, and her eyes are kind of just like, whoa. And you can kind of be like, I know what happened.
Yeah. So that's just a great scene.
I don't want to miss this funny little tidbit, and I'd totally forgotten about this, but I remembered as I was watching the movie. So there's the scene where she's at the library at school, and she goes on the computer and she goes to Oliver's band's website.
Yeah.
And then soon after, her dad is looking at the Texas Roller Derby website, and both those websites were done by, as we mentioned before, our friend and our website host, Chris Basham. And he told me that they were very last minute. Like he like found out he needed to do it and had like a day.
And I'd forgotten that was the case.
Me too.
Did you learn this like way back, or did you?
Yeah, I do remember like knowing it after I watched the movie and saw the sites. I was like, wait a minute. And then I was like, am I remembering this right? And he was like, yep.
And I assume at that time that was when he was hosting her official website.
Yeah, I believe so.
It has to be. That would make a lot of sense. But that's so cool.
It's pretty neat.
Like, I mean, it's a living prop kind of.
Yeah, like, that's cool. I don't know, putting it.
It's cool. Like, that's really cool. Good job, Chris.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the kitchen scene, or did you have any others before that you want to touch on?
I think we can probably just go ahead and talk about the kitchen scene.
Okay. So this is something I've never seen anyone ever notice except for myself. So props to me. And I only noticed years after seeing the movie, when I was rereading a little article from Details 1993. And I was like, oh my God. So that scene where, she's like, I gave him everything. And the mom like sits up and she walks out of the room and she lights a cigarette and she comes back in and says, "That's a lot to process." Well, Drew tells an incredibly similar story in details. So clearly this is pulled from her life. And I'll just read the quote from details. So it says, Drew told her mom, about her latest adventure, sex. Drew's mother never smoked, but when Drew told her, she reached for one of Drew's cigarettes and lit up and said, "I need to take this in for a while and I'll get back to you." Like totally the same thing.
Like Edmund Drew said, she like, you know, filled up her life's memories like a piggy bank and strewn them across the floor. Exactly. Like it's very, very possible that this was exactly that.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool. And like, it's such like no one would ever know that. It just happened to be years earlier. She'd mentioned it in an article.
Yep.
So there's some cool trivia for you guys.
Good pull. Really good pull.
Yeah. And it's a great scene.
Totally. I see that you have a mention here about the ending with Oliver. Are you referring to like the ending? I
just love that it ends the way it does. So even though he's like, "I didn't cheat on you," and maybe he didn't, but she's like, "Yeah, but you never called me in that whole month, and like I'm over you, and I'm not gonna hear your excuses, and like I'm not gonna wonder.
You should have called."
Yeah, like, and she's just like, "I got my own shit going on. Bye." Yeah, I just love that. Like, it's because you are really invested in it beforehand. Like you definitely are like, "Oh, they're falling in love," but when he screws up, it's like, "See ya." I've got my tribe over here and I'm good.
Yeah, I love it.
It's just a great touch. I like that a lot.
Me too.
Just another like Easter egg trivia thing I want to make sure we touch on. The scene, so after Bliss and Pash finally make up and they go into this bathroom and it's got blue tile and they're talking and like making up, that one was a tribute to a similar scene that's in that movie Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And I do remember watching it when it was on the Essentials, but I remember noticing that scene, but cool. Maybe you can find a screenshot of it somehow to show the comparison.
Did you know that because of the Essentials, or did you know that from
No, gosh, I don't know where I learned it because it's not in any of the articles I read, but I learned it.
Do you think you just noticed it, or do you think it's something you read?
No, I knew it.
That's super cool. I love it. And one other little like trivia sort of, I guess before we get into this trivia thing, no, you know what? I'm going to talk about this first.
Okay.
So you had mentioned the thing about Whole Foods and we were talking about like how they filmed certain establishing shots for Austin.
Yeah. Ones that Drew really felt fit with the characters.
Yes. And there's a particular mural in the film. Do you think it's supposed to be like an alien or a frog? Like
I always get alien vibe.
Okay, so it's like a little alien, and I think it says on the mural, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
If it doesn't, like that's kind of what goes along with it. And I've read a couple things about it. So first of all, it's artwork by an artist musician named Daniel Johnston. He died in 2019, I believe. He was relatively well known in Austin. He worked at a McDonald's and would give out tapes of his music and would often like do little illustrations of like cute little things. He also was known to be mentally ill. So a lot of his like music and his illustrations have like this kind of childlike kind of feeling to them, but in a very sweet and kind of beautiful way. At some point, I learned a little bit about him from someone I used to work for, but then I looked up about this "Hi, how are you" cover, which is what that mural is of. And one thing I read on Wikipedia is that there was a cult status around Daniel Johnston because Kurt Cobain was seen wearing the T-shirt of the artwork, and it had been given to him. Then another thing I read about the mural is that it was the former site of a Sound Exchange record store, which it no longer is. And at some point it was going to be painted over. And the neighborhood was like, "Do not, like, this is part of our history."
I love that.
And they saved it. So the mural, I believe, still exists in the spot that it did. I don't know Austin that well, but it was just kind of cool that was used in the film.
Well, and Oliver I feel like wears the shirt as well at one point. Yeah.
That too. And I think I had it in my notes, but I forgot to say that shirt is worn in the pool scene.
Oh, it's the pool scene that he wears in it. Okay.
Yep. Perfect. So that's another, like, it's like kind of like it really gives it like Austin. It's very interesting. Like And I think after that, I was like, wait, I recognize that. I feel like I've seen it before. And then like later having like framed other illustrations by Daniel Johnston, like I kind of
cool.
started to understand, and his music has a very like lovely kind of, it's hard to describe, like you should just check it out.
Okay. Cool info.
Yeah. And then the last thing we both kind of were like, yes, about is the bloopers and deleted scenes like Charlie's Angels at the end of the film.
Yeah, the end credits. Yeah, it's such a great touch. I mean, it's really similar to Charlie's Angels, actually.
And I always love bloopers.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Bloopers always make me so happy.
It's such a fun thing to see. And you just like, you can really tell in the Whip It ones that like, they're just having so much fun on set. Like everybody is, even the ones that aren't bloopers, but maybe they're outtakes or whatever, like the vibe is just there. And it's like, I love all the shots for each person too, that they like freeze on and like put the, you know, the actor's name as the character's name. It's good.
Yeah. Super fun. I mean, like, I really like that vibe, and I feel like it ends the film on such a, like, the film ends on a high note anyway, and then just like to have that like playful
then you kind of like, and it was the same thing with Charlie's Angels. Like I remember walking out of the movie just being like, woo, like all pumped up, and it kind of gives you that same like joyful
and I'm
feeling.
thinking about like, isn't it All the Small Things? Is that the song they so in the first Charlie's Angels, like anyway. I can't wait to talk about Charlie's Angels when we eventually do that. Like that'll be so much fun.
I don't know if we have any magazines to pull research for on that wasn't a very promoted movie.
There might be like maybe 2, and they probably just say the same thing. So let's not even bother. So maybe we can get McG on.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be super cool. We do.
And you know, funny enough, that was his directorial debut. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Cool. So when we do our McG podcast.
Oh goodness.
Hi McG.
Oh geez. So man, this is a long one, but we really wanted to get everything in there. Like there's a lot of cool information. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to be excited about with this movie. And you know, hopefully maybe it will keep like having new audiences that discover it. I think it's really cool.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So thanks for sticking with us.
Oh yeah. Hopefully you liked all of our information. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning in. We would really appreciate, don't zone out because you hear every podcast say this, but we really want you to rate and review and subscribe. We still don't have a lot of ratings, and come on, we're fun. Give us 5 stars.
Please.
And then come on over and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at HowDoYouDrewPod.
And here's another reminder to send us listener mail at howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com. Again, it can be comments, it can be your own stories, it can be literally anything.
Tell us what you thought the first time you saw Whip It. Like anything.
Totally. You know, even if your feedback is just like our little Milla.
Yeah, right. Like,
we want to hear it. We want to hear it. And thanks again, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Woo-hoo. Bye, guys.
Bye. How Do You Drew podcast is brought to you by Ashley and Anne from thejerseum.com. Our theme song is by our dear friend Matt Costa. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.